Hi, so we'll be discussing the project FIP 505, where it talks about the case study on Anthony and Claire. Anthony and Claire are a couple. They married each other for the second time. The first marriage, Anthony had two children called Frank and Zoe, and Claire from her first marriage has three children called Roy, Joseph, and Hannah. Together, Anthony and Claire have twins who are 10 years old now. Evaluating the net worth statement is really important to establish an estate plan for the couple. From the net worth statement, we conclude that the liquid assets for Anthony and Claire in total is 70,000, and they have a couple of real estate properties, a couple of other assets. The real estate properties, the home, the residential home, all of that is about 2,480,000. So the total assets right now under Claire and Anthony is 3,670,000. That includes personal assets, real estate, home, non-registered account, registered investment, RRSP, as well as TFSA. Talking about the liabilities that this couple has, there's a home mortgage of 550,000, and there's a line of credit of 100,000. So they're worse off by 3 million at this point.
So, having learned about the family structure of Anthony and Claire, and keeping in mind the goals that they have for their estate plan, I would like to go over a very crucial, but yet at the same time a very basic aspect that we think they should consider relooking at while being on talks about planning their family after their death. So, as we know that having a will makes the process of passing on your assets, your wealth accumulated, so much more easier and convenient, right? So, while looking at Anthony and Claire's case, we came across certain aspects of their will that we think they should consider updating or working on. In Anthony's current will, he has his ex-wife Sophie as an executor and power of attorney. We're recommending updating that to his current wife Claire for both his personal care and property, just to make things more smooth and probably avoiding disputes that might come up in the future, or probably Sophie taking any undesired actions. Another thing we noticed that in Anthony's will, he probably has not considered his current twins that he has with Claire. We recommend him making or creating a new will that considers him putting on all the kids, and as well as taking into account all the changes that have happened since his marriage with Sophie, as the will probably seems to have been made when he was married to Sophie. And this is just for avoiding adding on multiple codicils, as that might not be very helpful. And the same goes for Claire as well. It's very important to understand what is her current standing of the will, and has she covered all the aspects that should be considered while making a will. Lastly, it would also be good to know if Anthony and Claire have add-on and contingent executor on their will, because just in case if the primary executor that they've appointed is not able to perform his or her duty, it's crucial to have a contingent executor to have already appointed for the process of will to be taken out smoothly. So these were some concerns we would like them to think about and get back to us, since having a proper will in place is very important to having a good estate plan.
I will address two concerns relate to trust with potential solutions. The first concern revolves around Frank. Documentation reveals that Frank has maxed out both of his credit cards and spent all his earning from his part-time work. This is just a lack of financial knowledge in managing income and spending. Therefore, it's advisable for Anthony to consider establishing a non-discretionary trust for Frank. This trust structure will limit Frank's access to a predetermined amount monthly or annually, preventing him from unwise spending his inheritance based on his past spending habits. Moving on to Roy, a disabled dependent. There is no mention in the documentation of any existing or plan assets for him, since he will primarily rely on public benefits and inheritance after the couple have passed away. It's worth mentioning that setting up a registered disability saving plan could significantly benefit Roy's future. Additionally, a trust will be necessary for Roy's portion of inheritance. Considering Roy's government subsidies, a Henson trust could be secure his entitlements to subsidies while allowing him to benefit from the inheritance. However, I caution that if Roy's inheritance portion is substantial, setting up a Henson trust might not be necessary. Doing so would entail Roy's giving up absolute legal ownership over the inheritance, potentially making reliance on the inheritance alone could be more beneficial. It's essential to compare scenario with or without benefits in this case. Lastly, I have a query for the couple concerning the twins, Joseph and Hannah. Does the couple have any specific plans for them or intention of leaving anything for them? Considering they have a total of 7 children, each child's needs will significantly impact the couple's estate planning.
Anthony and Claire have their own insurance policies in place. Anthony has a term life insurance policy where he has his ex wife Sophie as its named beneficiary. However, it is important for Anthony to change the beneficiary of his policy to his present wife Claire, since if anything were to happen to him, all the proceeds from the term insurance policy would go to his ex wife Sophie and nothing would come to Claire and the kids, and it can jeopardize their financial future. Now, Claire has a permanent policy as well, but it is not clear if she has any beneficiary named on it. We would recommend that Claire has a beneficiary named on it, as it will save her probate, and whatever proceeds, if anything were to happen to Claire, comes out of it, and they should go to Anthony and their kids. If she does not have any named beneficiary on her permanent life insurance policy, it could jeopardize her spouse's financial future. Another concern that we have for the couple is that Claire has her power of attorney for her personal care as her brother who lives in Edmonton, whereas Claire and Anthony they live in Toronto. It is important for Claire to keep her POA for personal care as someone who lives in the same province as she does, as it helps in making easy decisions when it comes to her personal care. It may hamper the decisions that have been done on Claire's behalf in case she is sick. It is highly recommended from us that Claire makes someone her POA for personal care who lives in the same province. It may be her sister who lives in the same province who is already her POA for property, or maybe her husband as well. Apart from the facts discussed already, we know that Anthony is unsure about how much longer he should pay the child support for Zoe and Frank. We already know that he pays around 3,000 a month for both of them. However, it is important that when he makes the changes to his will or revises his will, he makes sure that he pays the child support for both Zoe and Frank. For Zoe, he needs to approximately pay for around another 6 to 8 years. He should consider this while he makes the will. However, for Frank, we know that he's already doing a part time job. So, while making his will, he can leave Frank out of the childcare benefit.
Concerning Anthony and his business partnership that is not registered, that is dangerous. We'll recommend as a matter of urgency that he registers the business immediately. With tenants in common, he will be able to secure his own aspect of the business even while he is dead. We'll also advise him to have a secondary will that will take care of the business aspect of his investment. And most importantly, that he sets up an inter-virus trust that will enable and ensure that his agreement with his partners aligns with the trust. With inter-virus trust, it will enable him to hold assets for his disabled child, Roy. It will help him to hold assets for his minor children, the twins. It will also ensure that children from their failed or previous marriages also partake or have inheritance in his assets. Of course, the numerous properties that he had or they had before marriage is also taken care of and is maintained within the family, and of course, even becomes a generational wealth. We'll also recommend that he makes himself the trustee to the trust, such that he will maintain control of the business while he's still alive. And of course, the trust will also protect the business from traditional creditors, both when he's still alive and when he is late. Concerning the business itself, they've run the business for 8 years successfully. We'll recommend that they register the business as a private corporation. The structure will enable them to have easy access to capital to be able to grow the business. It will also help them to enjoy low tax rates with profit that is within the business. And most importantly, is a going concern, and there's no fear of the business folding or terminating when either of them dies. And of course, there is no probate.
My discussion to the couple will be about estate planning towards some of their children, about mortgage payments in the former part, and then we shall conclude the case. I would like to add further some questions and concerns. The couple seems to be financially stable. However, they lack some planning as they have left nothing aside for their twins, neither on the will nor as named beneficiaries or any trusts created for them. It would be advisable also for them to have a RESP account which will take care of their post-secondary education. As a fact that Roy is disabled, looking at their net worth or the invested funds, which are fair, but it seems that they have no liquid cash which will serve as an emergency fund for Roy. The emergency fund will serve the purpose just in case of some unfortunate circumstance or his illness. By doing so, the family's financial planning remains intact. Now, as discussed by Anthony, he pays the child benefit for the children he has with Sophie, Frank and Joy. This amount comes to around $3,500, which is considerable. And he says he is not sure about how long he has to pay it. So the question here to Anthony will be, does he even want to pay the child support to Frank, as he isn't a minor anymore and earns for himself? The money saved here could be better planned towards estate. Now, looking at their monthly cash flow statement, there is no credit given on their mortgage payments or monthly installments. They are not even included in the cash flow. How is the couple managing the mortgage of $550,000 on their Toronto home and additionally a line of credit of $100,000? These are some points which needs to be worked out before a decent estate planning could be carried out. Rest of the discussion regarding their goals and objectives, concerns and recommendations, and the gaps in the couple's estate plan has been taken care of by my group members concisely. Our group concludes the case of Anthony and Claire here. Thank you.